They say there are places in America where the land itself remembers fear, where the wind carries the last breaths of people who walked in confident and never walked out. The locals don't talk about these mountains after sunset. The rangers avoid patrolling certain ridges alone. Hikers who survive the place say the desert doesn't just surround you, it studies you. And if it chooses you, there is nowhere to run. This is the story of the Superstition Mountains, America's most haunted wilderness, the place where disappearance is not an accident, it is a pattern. For centuries, people have tried to explain the strange things that happen here. Scientists blame heat, disorientation, hallucinations. Historians blame myths carried across generations. But none of those theories explain why experienced hikers vanish without footprints, why search teams hear screams that bounce from the rocks long after all known hikers have been accounted for, or why the missing are found in conditions too unnatural to belong to the desert. The earliest warnings came from native tribes long before America had borders. They avoided the area not out of superstition, but out of observation. Hunters vanished. Warriors returned with trembling hands, unable to describe what they saw inside the stone passages. They spoke of lights that moved with intention, shadows that didn't match the shape of their owners, and voices echoing from underground chambers that no one had ever entered. To them, the mountains weren't cursed, they were alive. When Spanish explorers marched into the region in the 1500s, they ignored every warning. Their journals, written by men trained for war, described an environment that seemed to shift each night. Trees appeared in new places. Rocks arranged themselves in unnatural patterns. Once, an entire camp woke to find their horses missing, no footprints leading anywhere, as if the animals had simply dissolved into the desert air. Soldiers reported hearing. One of the most disturbing events occurred in the winter of 1961. A group of 4 college students camped near a narrow canyon known for strange rock formations. They were experienced outdoorsmen, well-prepared, sober, and methodical. When they didn't return, a search party found their campsite abandoned in conditions eerily similar to the Dyatlov Pass incident. Tents were slashed open from inside. Gear was scattered as if the hikers fled in terror. The bodies were found days later, separated from one another. One had broken ribs but no external damage. Another had burned fingertips despite nothing in the desert being capable of producing such heat. A third lay with his mouth frozen in a silent scream. The 4th student was never found, though his footprint circled the campsite multiple times before stopping mid-stride in open ground. The case report quietly mentioned mild radiation traces on 2 of the bodies. No explanation was provided. The documents were archived and sealed. Years passed. More people went missing. Some vanished within minutes of being seen. One man radioed his wife saying he had discovered a door in the rock that wasn't there before. When authorities searched, no door existed, only a blank canyon wall. In 2014, a drone captured footage of something that investigators still refused to categorize. A figure moved across a cliff face on all 4s, too fast for a human, limbs bending in ways biology doesn't allow. The drone signal cut out seconds later. When recovered, the footage was distorted by static, though the desert air that day was clear and dry. The strangest modern case happened in 2018. A family of 4 camped near Weaver's Needle, planning only a short weekend getaway. They were experienced travelers. Nothing about their trip suggested risk. On the second night, another hiker in the area heard a scream, sharp, human, horrifying, echo across the ridge. When rescuers arrived, the family's campsite was perfectly intact. Food arranged neatly, chairs positioned around a fire that had burned out naturally, but the family was gone. Investigators discovered footprints that broke into a run, then simply disappeared. A camera was found half melted,
as though exposed to intense heat on only one side. In the sand nearby, someone had carved a frantic message: "He is here." Their dog was found alive, but trembling, staring fixedly at the mountains, as if watching something move deep within them. None of the family members were ever found. In recent years,
A special investigative unit entered one of the restricted caverns believed to connect to an older, undocumented passage system rumored to stretch for miles beneath the mountains. The temperature dropped instantly as they stepped inside, far too cold for the Arizona desert. Their breath fogged, flashlights flickered, the smell of ozone filled the air like the charge before a lightning strike. 20 feet in, they found scratch marks on the rock walls, human nails, fingertips, drag marks that suggested someone had tried to escape something pulling from deeper within. One investigator whispered that the angle of the scratches looked as if the person had been lifted off the ground while clawing. They didn't stay long. Outside, the sun blazed, but the cave entrance looked darker than it should, as if the shadows refused to retreat. For months, teams tried to map the unexplored underground systems using drones, but every drone malfunctioned. The few that returned carried corrupted footage, visual static, fragmented shapes moving in impossible directions, and at times, something that resembled a human silhouette crawling across the ceiling, limbs bending like liquid. The official explanation blamed technical interference. Unofficially, everyone abandoned the project. The more investigators dug, the clearer the pattern became. Nearly every disappearance occurred near seismic quiet zones beneath the mountains, areas where sound behaved unnaturally, refusing to echo. In some parts of the canyons, you could scream and your voice would die inches from your lips. Experts said it was due to geological structure. Locals said the mountains swallowed sound the same way it swallowed people. One elderly Apache man shared a detail no one outside the tribe had heard before. Long ago, they believed an ancient being lived beneath the mountains, a guardian or a prisoner, depending on the version of the story. It fed on movement, on wandering souls. It could only rise where the earth was hollow and the air silent. Tribes avoided those caverns not out of fear, but out of respect. Some places, he said, were not meant for